I'm so excited. To quote Lonely Island, I jizzed in my pants. Charles Xavier has got this son who's a bit of a psychopath. He's got huge multiple personality, okay? Like lots of them running around. His name is Legion. Anyway, Legion decides in his own little twisted mind that he's going to now make his dad's life better instead of worse. And the way he's going to make his life better is by going back in time and killing Charles Xavier's arch nemesis, Magneto, therefore making Charles Xavier's life wonderful and grand. The problem is, when Legion goes back in time to kill Magneto, Magneto and Xavier are still best friends, and Xavier saves Magneto's life by sacrificing his own. So now Charles Xavier is dead, and then it comes back to modern day, looking at the present as if Charles Xavier died 20 years ago or whatever. And Magneto is now actually a hero because he was so moved by the self-sacrifice of his friend Charles Xavier, and he started and formed the X-Men in honor of his friend Charles Xavier saved his life. And in the absence of Charles Xavier, Apocalypse and Summoner rises to power, takes over an entire continent, and is just creating mass genocide of the human race everywhere he goes. Now Magneto is the lone hero with his ragtag group of X-Men, some of whom in our regular timeline are actually villains, is leading them and resisting them against Apocalypse. Have I lost you yet? Probably.
I told you so! I told you so! From day one! I said, I'm the only guy who said from day one, Cumberbatch is Khan. Oh, but John Roberto Orsi just came out. The guy who wrote the movie. He said he's definitely not Khan. What I say, forget it. He's Khan. Oh, but John Alice Eve. Here's on video Alice Eve on the red carpet at the British Academy Awards. And she says, no, he's not Khan. And I said, doesn't matter what she said. He's Khan. And then, oh, but John, Carl Urban, your buddy. Here's a picture. I'm going to have Dennis pull this picture of me and Carl Urban on the day that he apparently let slip that Benedict Cumberbatch was actually playing Gary Mitchell. And what did I say? Said, I don't buy it. He's Khan. Over and over and over again, I said he's Khan. I want to read you this. Because this, I got so much email from so many people telling me what an idiot I am because I was still saying he's Khan. Here's one. John, dude, I normally love your show, but you've got to be one of the biggest morons in the world. If Alice Eve, who is in the movie, is telling us that he's not Khan, then now you're just being stubborn by saying that he is. Clearly he's not. Get over yourself. You don't know anything. Really? I told you so. And I get to act like that when I get emails like that. And I got lots of those kinds of emails. So, yeah, I had to get that off my
That was also one of the best parts of the movie. Con! Right?
Oh, my.
Not spoiler.
Oh, my gosh. It was just, yeah, so he was Khan. Yeah, I have no idea why they waited so long to tell people that he was. It's not like it was important. It's not like it was a big secret or an important secret in the movie. They reveal it pretty quickly. I mean, but that aside, so getting over that, he was great as the villain. If you're back now and you didn't hear the spoiler, Benedict was great as the villain.
Right. The Wrath of John Harrison or whatever his name was. Right?
The Wrath of John Harrison.
For now, I'm going to have to sell this. And are you kidding me? No. Buy this. This is Viagra for the eyes. This is an X. Yeah, this ain't a B wing or a Y wing or an A wing or this. Look. Obviously, there's some adaptation going on. 30 years. I love how battered it looks. I love that it looks aged. This could be a relic from the old Imperial Wars that they had with the rebellion. I think it's awesome.
Hey, thanks you guys for answering my questions. It makes my day. Well, thank you very much. That makes my day that you watch the show. I appreciate your opinions, and you really make compelling arguments and sometimes even make me see a whole other side of something. Well, I'm glad you say that, Adam, because let me go off on this as a little bit of a tangent for a second. The whole point in watching AMC Movie News or AMC Movie Talk or any type of opinion show at all is not just to watch so you can agree with what the people say. I don't want, if everybody's just agreeing with me, then I'm not doing my job. Because we are all different people with different tastes and different perspectives and different points of view. So if I'm saying something that just everybody agrees with, then clearly I'm making crap up. That's not the point. The point is to hear things that you do agree with and hear things you don't agree with, then be challenged a little bit, sharpen your own opinion, blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, whatever. Maybe I change your mind, or maybe I just, you think differently than I do, and hearing my opposite point of view just helps you sharpen your own point of view that's different than mine. Whatever. The point is not to agree. The point is, if you agree, great. And if not, great. That's the whole thing. So anyway, thank you for those comments, Adam. Anyway, let's get on with your question, though. And you were asking, I'd like to know how you guys got started and associated with AMC. Because you have a really great crew. Schnepp is my favorite. Well, isn't he all of our favorites? Anyway, but you guys are all equally awesome. Thanks, and I hope you guys have a great day. Well, I like taking these questions on Mailbag once in a while because it gives us a chance to do a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. How do we get involved with AMC? Well, there are two separate ways. One was how I got involved with AMC, and then there's how everybody else got involved on the crew. So, I've told this story before, so I'll just give you the really short condensed version. I was a longtime film blogger, was having some success with my own movie blog at the time called The Movie Blog, of all things. And I had won some awards. I'd been in some magazines, some TV shows. And anyway, long story short, AMC contacted me. And this guy named Justin with AMC called me and he recruited me. And he asked me, would you want to be part of AMC? Do you want to come help us do this new? You want to help create an online presence? Because at the time, AMC, if I'm remembering right, AMC's website was just like a page with the logo and a listing of the theaters. That's it. I don't think you could buy showtimes or anything on that, or you could buy movie tickets or anything online with them at the time. And they said they wanted to open up a whole new thing, and they wanted to know if I would come and do that. So I said yes, and that was almost 6 years ago. And things have evolved, man. I mean, when they first brought me on, it was just to run a blog. And we still have the movie news blog on the AMC Theaters website. We still run that. Amy Rose looks after that and does a great job with it. But I always let them know that my intention was we were going to take everything into the realm of video and podcasting. That's what we were going to do. And that's what AMC Movie News was going to be. And it took about 4 years. For AMC to trust me enough because there was no editorial at first. The whole idea at first was don't editorialize, just say the facts. To me, that's boring because I can just get the facts from anywhere. I like to have an editorial voice, and I like to read other sites and listen to other podcasts and watch other shows that give editorial voices. And I believe that's where the future is. So I said, okay, this is where we're going to go. And then finally, about 2 years ago, we started going the way of video. Anyway. That's how I got involved. So AMC recruited me. Now, here's how the other guys got involved. We'll start with Dennis. Dennis was actually a producer on a show that I did with the movie blog in the early days of when I first moved to LA. And Dennis was like a vice president at this company I was doing these shows for. And that's where he and I first met and became friends. And Dennis is a film school graduate, an incredible wealth of knowledge in Dennis Zen. Like I said, film school background, ran this great site called Think Hero and a great YouTube channel, Think Hero, and just a great post-production person. He's an editor, a shooter, he's a total package. Dennis Zen is the total package. And so once I got the okay from AMC to that we were going to start heading in the direction of podcasting video, I went to them and said, okay, well, here's the deal. You have to give me the money that I can go hire this guy. I mean, Dennis Zen is the one guy working with me at AMC that I vehemently and adamantly chased after. Like, I went after him. It's like, if we're going to do this and if we're going to succeed, we need Dennis Zen. It's cut and dry. It's as plain and simple as that. We need Dennis Zen. And so, Dennis had a lot going on. So I had to do a little convincing. I had to do maybe a little bit of groveling with Dennis. Like, Dennis, come work with me at AMC, please. And eventually he agreed. Now Dennis is basically full-time with us, and he's our production manager, and couldn't do this without him. So that's how Dennis got involved. Move on to the other person is Amy Rose. Amy Rose got involved because we were coming out of our blog only phase and heading more into our video and podcasting phase. And I had a movie news manager with me, or movie news editor with me, and her name was Roth Cornett. And Roth's great. And Roth is a friend of mine. And she did a very, very good job with us. But at the time, we were still very small, and it wasn't her position was not a full-time position in the least. and she needed something bigger, and there wasn't anything more for her. So she and I kind of helped her out a little bit. We decided she needs to find a bigger position for herself somewhere, and I helped a little bit. And now she is like the entertainment editor over at IGN, and she does a great job over there. She's come back. She comes back every once in a while and is on AMC. You've seen her on AMC Movie Talk and on AMC Indie Spotlight and things like that, and you'll continue to see her there. She's great. But that left me in a position where I knew we were about to grow. And I knew we were entering this new phase. I knew eventually we were going to have more staff and all this kind of stuff. And I needed somebody on board with me that I could trust, that had their whole act together, that had a solid background, that was not only a great film mind, but a great administrative mind as well, and all that kind of stuff. And so I started looking for people. And I knew Amy Rose Eisenbach for a little while. I knew a little bit about her work, and I was a fan of her work. And I would bump into her now and again on various set visits and junkets and things like that. And we would talk whenever we do. And she had mentioned on to me early on when we met at one junket once, hey, if you ever are looking for somebody, I'd be interested in joining AMC. I think at the time she was with IGN. And, you know, so when I needed to hire a new associate editor at the time, which is now the editor position, you know, Amy Rose, she has she was an account executive. She worked in the studio system. She did editorial on IGN. She has an extensive background in journalism as well. And she's just somebody who runs a very, very tight ship. And so as I started interviewing a bunch of people for this really key position moving forward, it came down to Amy Rose and this one other guy who was also very, very good. But at the end of the day, we just agreed, me and that guy, Justin, who recruited me from AMC, we both agreed, this is our person. Amy Rose Eisenbach is our person. There are very few people in this city of Los Angeles that bring the pedigree that she brings to this. The extensive background, her film knowledge, her understanding of how to just run an organization as well. She is indispensable. She's fantastic. And of course, Amy Rose is now hosting one of our brand new shows, AMC Indie Spotlight, which you should check out. If you're a fan of indie film, that is a show you got to watch. It airs on our AMC Theaters YouTube channel every Wednesday. And Amy Rose and Alicia Malone helping her do a great job hosting that show. You should check that out. And so I hired Amy Rose, and she has been with us ever since, and now she's full-time with us, and that's been great. John Schnepp is a pretty cool story. It was way back when Guardians of the Galaxy was first announced, and all of us were like, Marvel is making a Guardians of the Galaxy movie? What the hell is this? So what happened was I started getting a hold of some contacts, because while I know a lot about the comics, I had to admit, I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but I knew almost nothing about them. And so I started calling some friends of mine, say, hey, who do we know that really knows Guardians of the Galaxy? And a friend of mine named Benjamin Jackendoff, he said, hey, I know this guy named John Schnepp. He's the director of that show, Metalocalypse. He knows a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, awesome. Give me his number. So I gave this guy, John Schnepp, a call. I said, hey, do you want to come and be a guest on AMC Movie Talk? He said, yeah, man, sure. So he came in. We talked some Guardians of the Galaxy. He and I clicked really well. So he said, hey, man, I'd like to come back. And I'm like, great. I'd love you to come back. So he came back as a guest again. Then he came back again and again. And eventually he was guesting on the show like once or twice a week. So it was great. So finally, after about a year of that, I just went to him. I said, dude, look, I really appreciate you being a guest on the show. And I know you pump and promote your work on the show and you consider that compensation and all, but I think we need to make this official. I think you actually need to come on staff and join us. And so he did. And now Schnepp's been with us for, a while now. Schnepp's been with us for a while. A couple of the other key people like, Alicia Malone, at some point we hit this point where we were expanding how many shows we were doing. We needed more editorial voices on the crew. And so I put out word. This is only about 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. I put out word in our industry that I was looking for a couple new people to join AMC Movie News. And I got to tell you, I was floored by the quality of people that applied. I had people applying that I had been a serious fan of for years. Like, my mind was just blown. So Christian Harloff, who you'll know from Schmoes Know, and we had him on the show as a guest before and whatever, His was one of he actually emailed Amy Rose and said, "Hey, I heard you guys are looking for a new staff person. I want to join the staff of AMC." And Amy Rose came to me with that, and I'm like, "What? But he's got schmoes. No, he's got his own thing going on the side. Why? What's this about? Why do you want to do this?" So I gave Christian a call, or I had Amy Rose call him and said, "Yeah, set up a meeting, set up an interview." So Christian Harloff came in, and I'm like, and I was skeptical. I was like, "Dude, why do you want to come work with me? I mean, you've got schmoes. No, and it's going pretty well for you guys over there. I would think, as somebody who ran my own site for a very long time with the movie blog, I would think you'd want to pour your heart and soul and all of your attention into that." And, Christian just kind of for me. He looked at me and said, he goes, "I know, you trust me. I'm totally dedicated to what I'm doing at Schmoes and all that kind of stuff, but I want to work with you. And I love what you're doing here. I want to be a part of this. I think I've got a whole ton of stuff I can learn. And I think we have good chemistry together when we're on camera." And I agreed. I think me and Christian do have really good chemistry together when we're on camera. And I said yes. So we brought on Christian Harloff, and it was in that same casting process that we ended up finding Alicia Malone, who's one of the most respected people in our business, works for like 7 or 8 different international outlets at the same time. Her movie knowledge is second to none. And of course, Miri Jetikin, who I'd known from her days as an on-camera voice and as a producer over at Electric Playground. So we had those guys, and then our hosts, we usually just put out casting calls for hosts, bring them in audition, we pick the best one. But anyway, that's kind of the long and the short about how I got involved in AMC, and then how everybody else got involved, and how I found all of them, and then how I brought all of them on. And I got to tell you, I'm very proud of a number of things we've done at AMC Movie News, but I think the thing I am proudest of with AMC Movie News is the quality of team we have together. And look, there's only a handful of us that are actually like full time, because a lot of the people I mentioned, they only work like 2 hours a week with us. They're on like 2 shows or 3 shows. There's like a 1 hour commitment. So I mean, they don't make full time salaries with us or anything like that. So I mean, our team will change and evolve. Other people have other opportunities who may need to fit new pieces into certain things now and again. But I got to tell you, I'm really thrilled with the team we have and the personalities we have. So anyway, thanks a lot for the question. I always like questions that let me get a little bit into behind the scenes stuff. So I hope you found that informative and hopefully not too boring.
The comments board right now, the chat board, and yes, it's the hashtag Viagra for the eyes. I'm a fan of Downton Abbey. I am. I'm one of the watchers of Downton Abbey.
I've already seen Ben-Hur.
See, everybody knows I live, breathe, eat, crap Star Wars. Star Wars is my life. So when I heard that Peter Mayhew, the original Chewbacca, was coming back, I couldn't care less. I honestly, I couldn't care less. And everybody's going to be like, "What? But it's the original Chewbacca, John. How can you possibly say that?" Here's the thing about Peter Mayhew, and all due respect to Peter Mayhew, and Peter Mayhew is very special. If I'm walking at a Comic-Con somewhere and Peter Mayhew's at a table, I'm getting in that line to get his autograph, absolutely. But here's the thing. Chewbacca made Peter Mayhew special. Peter Mayhew didn't make Chewbacca special. Peter Mayhew is a tall dude who went... That's all he did. There is nothing about the performance of Chewbacca that Peter Mayhew can uniquely bring. I want to see things your way. Believe me, I want to see things your way. But honestly, I'm at a point, and I know a lot of people are happy. And hey, if it's making Star Wars fans happy, then that makes me happy.
And the man deserves a paycheck. How about that?
And he does. He's Peter Mayhew. But once again, like to me, Peter Mayhew didn't make Chewbacca special. Chewbacca made him special. And I think you could put anybody of that height in the costume would be the same thing. But you've got you got a year to change my mind.
Right.
I want you to change my mind.
Chewbacca's the only one.
I can't believe you brought up the Star Wars Holiday Special in any kind of positive context. That's right. That's a first I've ever seen.
Defending Chewbacca.
Some people are saying in the chat board right now that we should do the next AMC versus Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca or not as Chewbacca.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah. My God. You for as a Sith. You open the screen, you do a fade from a star field down to this world, and then zoom in on this world, and on the top of this building, you see some kind of lightsaber fight, and the camera pans around, and as she's spinning around, you see Lupita Nyong'o with like 2 red lightsabers in her hand.
Yes.
Done! I'm done! Ah!
Wow.
I'm really excited about this.
Wow.
I'm super stoked. So yes, that is all great.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
And look, there are exceptions to everything, and I'll get to a couple of exceptions here in a second. But you know what they're talking about, right? It's where somebody who isn't intelligent enough to know how to actually speak in sentences, and they don't have enough knowledge to actually communicate, so they have to, okay, say these 5 words, blah, blah, blah. Now what's the next fact? Now say the next 5 words and cut it. So basically what happens is their videos look like this. Now they're over here. Now they're talking, and you know, it's garbage. About 5 years ago, I did 2 movie reviews in that style. And I did them, and I sat back and I looked at them and I said, wow, I look like a jackass. And I decided not to do that anymore. It sucks. I really hate it. Now, that being said, I got nothing wrong with filthy at all. Bring on the filthy. I love the filthy. We're not going to see all the filthy. Bring on the filthy. Say, did you hear that Star Wars is crossing over with, you know, Tron? And no, it's not. And this is one of the stories that, admittedly, when you first hear it, your first reaction is probably thinking, this is nonsense. That's not true. What's you know, self-respecting university is actually going to run a course on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I'm here to tell you, this is a real thing. This is a real thing with a real college professor teaching this course. And look, I am as nerd comes. I'm excited about it, and I know me and my buddies will be talking like, oh man, cool, I would take that in university. But seriously, what a waste of time. Do you really need a course on the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I've taken a course on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's called Watching the Avengers. Do that. What I don't understand is why anybody who's going to university or college and spending, I don't even know how much you got to spend on college in this country. I know it's expensive in Canada, but I understand it's even more expensive here. So spending like house mortgaging kind of money to go to a course, and you're going to use one of those things not to learn something. You're going to use a big chunk of that money to study the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is just, even as a film fan, even as a massive fan of all the Marvel films and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is one of the stupidest things I have ever heard. Bring on the filthy. For those of you who don't know, I was talking about 50 Shades of Grey the other day, and I said, you know, the book is pretty filthy, but I didn't want to sound like I was being a prude. And so I said, look, and I've got no problem with the filthy. Bring on the filthy. I love the filthy. And that suddenly on Twitter, I'm finding all these hashtags, bring on the filthy. And a couple of people even made GIF memes, like these animated GIFs of me going, bring on the filthy. It was kind of funny. So you mentioned loving Optimus Prime. Me and my friend used to joke around, but this is probably true from childhood. We all have our own moral compass, but there are 3 people who could influence me and tell me to do the most immoral things, and I will do it. Santa Claus, Chewbacca, and Optimus Prime.
It's a pretty good list.
And if they Chewbacca could tell me to do, and Optimus Prime could tell me to do, like Optimus Prime could say, John, go and kick that 5-year-old child in the face. And I would say, yes, Optimus Prime. Whatever you say, Optimus Prime.
This just got really dark.
That's just how I grew up. I don't know, Liam Neeson from Taken.
Not a Zeus.
Not as,
that's too powerful.
No, let me rephrase. Number 1, I will take Liam Neeson from Taken. I will take number 2, Liam Neeson from Clash of the Titans. Number 3, I will take Liam Neeson from not the Highlander. What was that one where he came out like after the
Dark Knight. Yeah, wasn't he? He was like,
well, yeah. I'll take Liam Neeson from Dark Knight as Ra's al Ghul. I will then take Liam Neeson
as from Darkman
when he was as Darkman, and number 5 when he was that Scottish warrior in the old time.
Rob Roy.
Rob Roy. So yeah, number 1 Liam Neeson from. I will take 5 Liam Neesons. That is my posse. Okay, I'm going to do my best not to go into full all-out rant mode here. Okay, so here's the thing. So that thing came out, and I remember I first saw the picture. And let's bring up that picture. Here's the graphic that everybody is talking about. This image here that you see. Batman vs. Superman, Part 1, Enter the Night, which sounds like a really bad 1970s gay porn title, but whatever, was for October 2015. Part 2, Dawn of Justice, at its regularly scheduled date. So this image comes out, and I remember I see it, and I was like instantly intrigued. It's like, what's this? This is fairly interesting. Because just on its face value, it's like, well, this kind of makes sense. It was a really long shoot. Maybe they have enough material that you could split it into. We have been speculating on this show for a long time. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't bet on it, but I won't fall over shock if Warner Brothers shocks the world and comes out with Superman. So, like, by the way, Batman vs. Superman, October 2015, baby, and like just shocks everybody, right? I think that would be genius of them to do. So sure, it kind of fits into this little box, this narrative we've been creating about what could happen. It makes sense, sure. But that is where my joygasm ended. Because then I'm like, well, what's the source? There's got to be a really cool source. This came out of Warner Brothers. This came out of a guy who we know did this, blah, blah, blah. Here's what this image is. And let's bring this picture up one more time. Let's bring this up. Here's what this picture is. It is a random, unverified, anonymous picture on Imager that somebody then shared on Reddit. Nobody knows who it came from. There is absolutely no verification to its authenticity, no evidence at all, not a shred of anything to suggest this could be real. There is nothing in the world, and I read every site that ran, well, I couldn't read every site that ran this as a story because every site did. But there was absolutely no shred of evidence to suggest this is anything other than some 14-year-old with moderate Photoshop skills who just put together a graphic and threw it online. Nothing! Nothing at all! And yet, sites picked it up and ran with it as a story. And this is the thing that I know you guys hear me go on this, but I'm so passionate about this topic. The flagrant disrespect that the movie news web sphere, of which I am a part of, and I have been guilty of this in the past. That's part of the reason it gets me pissed off, because I know this is something inadvertently I have done too, and it really irks me. When we show such flagrant disrespect to the movie fan community, when we show such flagrant disrespect to the fans who invest their time in reading our sites, in listening to our podcasts, and in watching our videos, we don't care that we are feeding them what we know full well is total BS. There's not one of these sites that ran this as any kind of a story that they're not intelligent enough to know. They were all far more intelligent enough to know that this was total BS, but they didn't care. They were going to run it anyway and let the speculation run around some fans. They didn't care that they were causing confusion and misinformation with their readers. There was nothing to support that this was real. If there was at least something there that said, actually, this came from a guy who was once a WB employee and is still friends with a lot of people there. That's still not enough, but then you can see why, okay, maybe. There was nothing. And a lot of these websites running these headlines of rumors of Batman versus Superman being split into two. Others, a lot of these headlines were reports claim that blah. Rumors and reports? You made the freaking rumors and reports! This wasn't a rumor until you started spreading this BS. This wasn't a report until you said it was a report. This is one of those examples where the movie news sphere online created their own big typhoon of confusion for the fans. Why? Because they just wanted the hits. Look, you just want hits. Everybody online wants hits. There's nothing wrong with that. Craving success, that's great. Do what BuzzFeed does. Make fluff pieces. Make top 5 lists. We all do that. You're not confusing your audience. You're not spreading misinformation. You're just putting up good stuff that gets a lot of hits. And do that. Don't intentionally mislead your readers and the whole damn community. This is what makes our whole industry a joke. Is that guys like you, and look, I know a lot of really good guys who made a mistake. They didn't intentionally make mistakes, so I don't want to lump everybody into one thing. That's unfair of me. But there are some people out there who just knew this was total BS. They had no doubt, there was no validity to it, and yet they put it out as a piece of news. The rumors, the reports, you are the rumor and the report. You created it. Let's show some more respect to the people who read our websites and watch our shows. Let's show some more respect to the movie fan community that lets us do what we do because we're a part of them. Let's nurture this and grow it and celebrate it, not treat it like crap.
John, buy or sell these Rock and Terminator rumors?
Okay, so let's assume both of these are true. And that's a wild assumption because these are not confirmed. So let's assume for a second. I have 2 answers. Buy The Rock in the Terminator. I mean, Rock is the biggest movie star in the world right now. I would put that dude in Shakespeare. It wouldn't be good Shakespeare, but I'd pay to see it. So yeah, I could totally see The Rock in a Terminator franchise, absolutely. But I sell this notion of the Terminator being Terminator 5 being about going back in time again to kill somebody's parents to stop somebody from being born again. Been there, done that for 3 films.
Don't need it anymore. Get over this. Okay, yeah, it was a great idea at first. Time traveling back to kill somebody so somebody else won't be born. We've done that for 3 movies already. Don't give it to us again. Unless you're talking about a fresh reboot, then I might have a little bit of forgiveness. But by The Rock being in Terminator, sell this concept of Terminator that's being rumored. Recently heard a rumor that Avengers 3 could possibly be split into 2 movies. And with a villain as big and bad as Thanos wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, should that be what the film is based on, I think it would make sense to do so. However, I've been waiting long enough for the big showdown with Thanos and wouldn't want to wait yet another film to see that fight. What would you think about the Avengers 3 being split into 2 films, assuming the rumor is true? All right. Matthew, thank you for the question. I have seen these reports going around the internet the last 24 hours or so, claiming that certain sources are saying, and it comes from some obscure website, certain sources are saying, nothing official obviously, that the Avengers 3 is going to be split into 2 films. Okay, here's why this is one of the most stupid things I have ever heard in my life, ever. All right? What do you split into? First of all, they don't have a script for Avengers 3. So let's just get that out of the way. Kevin Feige's got a roadmap. They know where they're going, but there's a lot of films to happen between Avengers 2 and Avengers 3, okay? There's a lot to happen, okay? So is there some work happening on Avengers 3? Sure, I bet there is. But this is why this is one of the most stupid, preposterous reports I've ever heard. The last Twilight film, I think it's Twilight Breaking Dawn. I think that's the name of the last book. I don't know the name of them in order, okay? But that's a book. This is The Hobbit, but they had a book, all right? A book. It's one thing, a book. Gonna make 2 movies out of it? All right. Then you are splitting it into 2 films. Hunger Games, what's the tagline of the last one now? Mockingjay. Mockingjay is a book. It's one book. But unlike the other first 2 films in the series where they just did 1 movie per book, they're splitting the second book into 2 and doing a movie for each half of the book. Hence, they're splitting it into 2. What exactly are they splitting? This report that they're splitting Avengers 3. There is no Avengers 3. There is no book out there called Avengers 3. And now we're going to take that book, Avengers 3, and split it in half. What? How do you split air in half? There is nothing to split in half. It's a concept. Avengers 3 right now is a theoretical concept. It's not a physical thing that gets split in half. And this whole thing about this Avengers 3 may be split into 2 highlights one of the biggest pieces of idiocracy in the online movie world today. That some unknown site can float some story and then a whole bunch of really good, credible, otherwise credible movie sites start running with it as a story. What are you splitting in half? There is nothing to split in half. Is Return of the Jedi? Is that just Empire Strikes Back split in 2? Oh yeah, we made Star Wars. Big hit with that Star Wars. Let's say we split Star Wars 2 in half. Let's split Star Wars 2 into 2 movies. No, there were 2 movies. There was A New Hope. There was Empire Strikes Back. There was Return of the Jedi. They didn't take Empire Strikes Back and split it into 2 movies. It was 3 movies. All right? They're gonna do an Avengers 4. Avengers 4 is coming, and it's not a split of Avengers 3. Just as much as they didn't take Avengers 1, they took Avengers 1 and split it into 2 films, and that's why we got Avengers 2 coming out. No, it's a second film. It's just a second film. So, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I remember I pulled Ann when I was reading these stories. I got Ann and I said, honey, you got to hear this report. I'm reading this and I think this is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Proof of idiocracy in the world. I'm just going to read you the story and tell me if you pick up what I'm talking about
or if I'm just being crazy. And I read the story and she said, wait. What do you mean splitting Avengers 3 in half? Is there a book called Avengers 3? Exactly. So, the fact that there is no final script for Avengers 3, the fact that they haven't even announced who the director for Avengers 3 is, and all that there is no Avengers 3 at this point. There's no book called Avengers 3. There's no whatever. There's nothing for them to split in half. So, I mean, I don't blame you, Matthew. Like, you're reading these reports. You're a film fan. You're online. You're reading these reports about this. And so you want some clarification. So you write into some of your buddies, or you write into AMC Mailbag and you're saying, hey, I heard they're splitting Avengers 3 in half. Is this true? Of course it's not true. Of course it's not true. They're going to be Avengers 3. And at some point there's going to be Avengers 4. And at some point there's going to be Avengers 5. And at some point there's going to be Avengers 6. And they're going to keep going until such time that Marvel decides to just reboot the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. But right now, the gravy train is running pretty hot, and they ain't looking to get off just yet. They're not looking to disembark off this gravy train. So, this report of splitting Avengers 3 in two, one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Oh, dear God. First of all, Garrett, thank you for the question. I'm toying with you here just a bit. I'm gonna yank your chain a bit here, but no, it's look, that the logo's the same. That means it's the same universe. Let me give you an analogy. Saying that because the Wayne Enterprise logo is the same, kind of like saying, wait a minute, that's the same Superman S that Christopher Reeve did. That means that Henry Cavill is actually just a duplicate and Christopher Reeve's going to come back. No, that makes no sense. But saying that just because the Wayne logo is the same on an Easter egg, by the way, it's just an Easter egg. Saying that logo being on the satellite means it's the same Batman universe as the Christopher Nolan universe, despite everything Christopher Nolan has said, insisting over and over and over again that his Batman universe is done. It was self-contained. It does not stretch beyond the third film. That's not me saying it. That's Christopher Nolan saying it. To say that is like saying me coming home to my wife and she's saying, hey, John, where were you today? And I say, I was at work. I was at the AMC Burbank 16, doing movie talk, running movie news, having a good time with everybody. My wife says, well, it's funny you should say that because I see a blade of grass on the bottom of your shoe. I surmise that means you got on a plane, flew to Chicago, was at Wrigley Field for a baseball game, you got to walk on the field and meet the players, and then you came home. I got all of that because there's a blade of grass on the bottom of your shoe. That's what we're saying by saying, oh, the logo on the satellite is like that logo. That means this is the same Batman universe. No, it doesn't. My brothers and sisters of movie fandom, listen to me. Batman's done. Christopher Nolan's Batman is done. It's finished. Christian Bale's not coming back. There is Robin, whatever. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is not going to be Batman. It's not going to be a continuation of the story. It's finished. It's done. We've said it 1,000 times. Christopher Nolan has said it 1,000 times. What more do you need? Do you need Christopher Nolan to sneak into your house in the middle of the night, creep into your bedroom, lovingly pull down the sheets, give you a nice little tray of candles and scented aromas, and say, look, listen, it's okay, but the movie's done? Is that what you need to finally believe it? It's over. Amy Rose, your thoughts?
All right, let's all take a breath. Bring it back in a little bit.
Damn it, someone's going to make a video meme out of me doing that damn music
I'm
stuff.
sure
It's going to be
they
horrible.
will.
They're amongst the greatest films ever made and amongst the most influential films ever made. You talk to all the hot directors today, they will all list Star Wars amongst the things that got them inspired to be filmmakers. It's just what Star Wars is. Dude, listen to me. My friend, Sultan, listen to me. Watch the original trilogy. Bless your own heart. Bless your soul by watching the original Star Wars trilogy. It will enlighten your spirit. It will bring clarity to existence. It will make you a better man. Sultan, go watch it. Seriously, you are less of a man. You're less of a man. If you haven't seen the original Star Wars, there, I said it. I went there. Hashtag no Star Wars less than a man. I actually envy you. I envy you that you have not seen the original trilogy, because you get to do something now, Sultan, that I can never do again for the rest of my life. I will never again in my life be able to sit down and watch Star Wars for the first time. I'll never be able to do that again. I've already done it. A lifetime ago I did it. And I'll never be able to do that again. But you still have that awesome, precious experience ahead of you. Go watch it. This next question comes to us from Julian Lynn, who writes, question, have you ever seen a trailer which got you absolutely hyped for that film, and then you saw the movie and were like, what was that? For me, forever, the movie where I was so psyched by the trailer and then was so let down by the movie is always going to be The Phantom Menace. I still think the trailer for The Phantom Menace, greatest trailer ever made. It made me pee myself. I mean, literally, urine streaming down my leg. Losing control of all bodily functions. Yeah. It was just because, you grew up like me, where Star Wars is my life and my religion and everything. And it was just so good.
John, would you have ever guessed when you saw that trailer that those cool robots on on those floating machines would be like, Roger, Roger?
No.
I never in a million years thought that they would have the lamest dialogue and be like, beepity beep, Roger that. It was like,
Roger.
wow. Yeah, I agree.
It's like, really? You could have walking, self-aware robotics, but you don't have better voice programs for them?
Yeah.
And go check it out, Corporal. Roger, Roger. Like, really? We don't have anything better than that?
All the voices sucked in that
All
movie.
the voices suck. And you know what the biggest sin about that movie is? I watched that movie. I've already explained how ridiculously psyched I was for that movie. It's my religion and everything. I went to go, and I was working, when that movie came out, I was working in a visual effects company at the time. So I was a producer and a client relations guy at a video effects company. So I was really big into CGI, very big. And I went, and the effects in Phantom Menace, I mean, take nothing away from those. Mm-hmm. They were astonishing. They changed the game. But I remember going to go see that movie, and I had convinced myself to like it. I convinced myself that was awesome. That was awesome. And I went to go see it again. That's awesome. I literally saw it about 12 times in theaters. And by the time I got to about the 5th or 6th time, I started realizing, the more I watch this, the more it doesn't, this isn't quite right. And then I watched it like the 10th time. By the time I was at 10th time, I was like, no, this movie really, really sucks.
Go right for the heart, don't you? Because if you're going to talk to me, if you want to go the most extreme example with me, talk about the original trilogy.
Because you have said that many times.
I have. And so I'm going to tell you right now, I have what I called my 4 rules of remakes that I like studios to abide by. It's not always the case. Sometimes there are exceptions. But one of the main rules is reboot the film if the majority of the current movie-going generation has not seen the original. Now, you don't always have to stick with that, but that's just one of my guidelines. Obviously, with Star Wars, despite how old it is, the vast majority of the people who are the movie-going audience today have still seen Star Wars. So I don't think there's need for it. But my overall guiding premise still holds. You can reboot Star Wars, make a remake. That's fine. You know why? Because if it sucks, I still have my original trilogy. It's not like all the picture on my original trilogy DVDs suddenly go blurry if you make a bad remake. I still have them. They still exist, and they're still mine to cherish. So go ahead and take a shot if you want to think. Now, of course, they can't do that because they're still going on with the Star Wars universe. So you can't have Superman, Man of Steel 2, and then reboot Superman while Man of Steel 3 is coming out. So that doesn't make any sense. But to highlight my love of this, and talking about current movie-going audiences having seen everything, this is absolutely true. You're going to think I'm exaggerating. I am not. A few years ago, I moved back to East Coast Canada because I had lived out west for a while. So I moved back. I'm single, looking to meet people. So I start dating around a lot. I go with a lot of people, and I kid you not. One question I would ask, there were several questions, but one of the questions I would always ask everybody I get set up on a first date with, like whether it's like some 20-year-old girl, some 21-year-old girl, first question was, have you watched and what do you think of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi? And on a couple of occasions, most of the time they'd seen them when we talk about it, on the couple of occasions that they said, oh, I've never seen those, I swear to God, I'd say,
I'm out.
then you know what? We got nothing left to talk about. It didn't matter how hot they were. It didn't matter anything. It's like, you know what? We've got nothing left to talk about. Let's enjoy the rest of our dinner and then part ways as friends. Because I've got no time for you if you haven't seen and appreciate the genius of the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm not talking about the mess of the prequels. I'm not talking about the stupid garbage Clone Wars nonsense. I'm talking the original Star Wars masterpiece. You haven't seen it? You and I got nothing to talk about, lady. Hit the road. So yeah, that's my diplomatic way of dealing with that stuff. Let me address the last part of that email because you would be surprised how many emails I get. I get at least 7, 8, 9, 10 emails a week of people saying, why don't you have Kevin Smith on your show sometime? Why not? Oh yeah, because Kevin Smith's banging on my door, begging me to be on my show, and I'm just telling him no. Look, I've been on a radio show with Kevin, I think twice, but he and I have never actually sat down and had a conversation on our own ever. So I don't know Kevin Smith. I don't. I would love to have him. So let me throw it out there, guys who keep yelling at me for not allowing Kevin Smith to be on my show. If you know Kevin and you can talk him into coming in and being on the show, we'd love to have him. I'm a huge Clerks 2, one of my top 5 all-time favorite comedies. Bring him in.
What happened to the Arrested Development movie?
There was never going to be an Arrested Development movie. I've been arguing till I was blue in the face with people forever. Everybody saying, oh, there's going to be an Arrested Development movie. I actually made this video on YouTube years ago saying, folks, get a grip. There's never going to be an Arrested Development movie. And there are still people today who write hate messages on there. You don't know. They might do it. They're not doing it. That show went off air for a reason because nobody watched it. And then there's this big myth around that. Oh, no, John, you don't understand. When the show went off the air, it got a huge audience. That's so mythological. It's just not the truth. It's just not. Because what happened? You know, they brought it back. Nobody else wanted to pick it up. No other network would pick it up, and they tried other networks, and all they could get was Netflix. And guess what? It didn't work all that well on Netflix either. No studio is going to put $20 million into an Arrested Development movie. It's not happening. Oh, but John, there was this one festival where the cast and the crew said, we're working on a movie. Wonderful. Do you know how many movies are being worked on? 1,000 to 1 that never get made. You're not going to see an Arrested Development movie. Look, I'm a fan of the show, just like everybody else. I loved the original airings anyway. I did not like the season they did on Netflix at all, to be honest with you. But I loved all the old shows. They were great. But that doesn't change the reality that since nobody watched it, they're not going to make a movie out of this. So what happened to it? It never was. That's just it. This is terrible. This is a terrible casting. Just awful. And for several reasons. Number one, let's get one of the simpler things out of the way. I don't want a 95-pound Wonder Woman. Gal is a beautiful woman, absolutely. That's great. She's got the exotic look that you'd want for a woman, Wonder Woman, all that kind of stuff. But I don't care what incarnation of Wonder Woman you look at, whether it's the comic books, the animated movies, or whatever. Wonder Woman ain't 95 pounds. The other reason I have a problem with this is, in Fast and the Furious, she has been acceptable for the role she was playing. But I've never looked at her as an actress and think, this actress can not only play in a small side role, this actress could, on her own shoulders, carry a franchise. And you know that DC and Warner Brothers aren't just planning on using a Wonder Woman just as a little side character in Man of Steel 2 and never use her again. This is now our Wonder Woman for the Justice League universe moving forward. You know they're going to make a Wonder Woman franchise now based around her. I have never believed that she's the type of actress who could carry a franchise. So for those, and plus, she struggles with the English language a little bit. So for all those reasons, physically, I don't think meets the criteria. I don't think she has that level of acting ability to carry an entire major league franchise on her shoulders. I just don't see it. Before I say anything about Gal Gadot, let me say this. We cannot discount the possibility this could work.
Yeah, of course. Or it could suck.
And we cannot judge it until, and there's a difference between prediction and judging. There's a big difference. Judging can't be done until after you sample it. And until the movie comes out, we cannot say definitively she will suck. We can't do that. We've done that in the past. 99% of the time, what we as movie fans think is going to suck sucks. But then sometimes, every once in a while, it doesn't suck. And we got to be open to that possibility, and it can work. Here's the analogy. You know I like to bring everything into sports analogies, but here's the analogy I give this, all right? Let's go, I don't know, pick a sport. Gray, pick a sport. Okay, basketball.
Good
Let's
job,
say you're the coach of the Miami Heat, okay? You're the coach. And there's 2 seconds left in the game. You're down by 3 points. You have to take a 3-point shot. The coach draws up a play for the worst player on the team to take the shot instead of LeBron James. Is that the wrong decision? Yes. Can it work? It may still work.
May work.
He may hit the shot. But even if he hits the shot, it was still a bad choice. It was still the best choice would have been to give it to LeBron James. That's your biggest chance to succeed. Here's my problem with the Gal Gadot stuff. We'll get to the fact that she's not a trained actress. She was an underwear model. She doesn't have a background in acting. She was only put into date night because she was a hot lingerie model who could say, "You make sex with us?" Really sexy. And she was put into Fast and Furious to be eye candy, and she wasn't even good at the eye candy role that she was given to play. But what happens is, people who want to argue with me about this Gal Gadot situation, I say this was a bad cast, much like it would be a bad decision to give the worst player on the team the 3-point shot. This was a bad casting decision. That can still work. But what they will often come back to me with are 2 separate arguments. One is, well, we had never heard of Chris Hemsworth before.
Yes.
We had never heard of Henry Cavill before. True. But having heard of them is completely different from them being qualified. Look, Henry Cavill, for almost a decade, has been a highly sought after and recruited dude in Hollywood. He was almost the new James Bond. He was almost Superman before. Yeah, a lot of almost. But the casting brains in Hollywood have had their eye on Henry Cavill for almost 10 years and had pegged him years ago as a highly talented, with high star potential. He's been identified that, never given a break. But that's his background. You look at Chris Hemsworth. We talked about it earlier in the show when we talked about Star Trek. Chris Hemsworth was a dude that casting people in Hollywood have been talking about for years, just looking for the right vehicle to give to him to see if he can actually take off. But he was pegged as a guy with a lot of acting talent, huge upside, star potential. That's his background. Gal Gadot's an underwear model. That's her background. So that's the one argument that people make. Hey, well, we never heard of these guys. My argument is having heard of them is irrelevant. Were they qualified? Did they have the talent? And were they pegged as people who had talent previously? Now, the other argument that people come back to me with is often the Zack Snyder, give them the benefit of the doubt argument. That's the argument I often hear from people saying, well, I'm sure they must have seen something in the audition. Okay, but if you're going to use that argument, then you are never, ever allowed to second guess any casting decision ever made in Hollywood, because you can always say that, well, they must have seen something in the audition.
You always use the Heath Ledger thing.
Well, yes, exactly. The Heath Ledger, but once again, let's look at the background.
Yes.
When
He's a great actor.
when they were making the Dark Knight,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger was already an Academy-nominated actor.
Yeah.
He got an Academy Award nomination for Brokeback Mountain. He was almost another Academy Award. What was that other film he did? Now, he was a hit-and-miss actor, but when Heath Ledger was on, he was an Academy Award level actor.
10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You, says Greg.
Who doesn't
now-
love it?
Let's be clear. I'm not pro.
Oh, no,
Gal
I
Gadot.
know. And I'm not talking to you. I'm
I'm
saying...
being the devil's advocate
So-
because it's important to represent both sides.
Yes, absolutely. Now, so here's ultimately what it
You don't
comes
need to
down
spite
to.
me.
When people want to say, argue with me about giving Gal Gadot a chance, I'm saying, well, you shouldn't argue with me about that because we're going to give her a chance.
We have to.
Unless we say we're going to boycott this movie, which would be stupid, we're going to be there opening day and we're going to watch the film with an open mind and hope. Trust me, I'm a big critic of her casting as Wonder Woman. I'm a huge critic of it. But there's also nobody in this town that is hoping to be wrong more than me.
Yeah.
I hope she knocks it out of the park because I want a good, sustainable, thriving DC cinematic universe. And for that to happen, you got to have a good Wonder Woman. But sitting here a year and a half away, removed, I'm looking at it and say, all the arguments for Gal Gadot right now are all what I call blind faith arguments. They're saying, well, let's just believe it'll happen. Whereas with a Chris Hemsworth or a Henry Cavill, there was tangible, sustainable, quantifiable proof. These guys were talented, they were pegged as talented, and they were pegged as having star potential before going into it. There's a big misconception here, too. People will often want to say, Zack Snyder has a great history of casting. He does. But you're crazy
if you think Zack Snyder made this casting decision. If you think Warner Brothers, who are trying to build a DC cinematic universe with a lot of DC movies to come that Zack Snyder will not direct, put the casting decision of Wonder Woman, who's going to be a small character in Batman versus Superman. If you think they put that whole decision on him, say whoever you pick will just run with the future, you're nuts. I think Zack Snyder had a say. I think they got his input.
I'm sure Ben Affleck had a say too.
Oh yeah, I'm
Big
sure.
say.
I'm sure they had
and
says.
I trust him as a filmmaker.
But and I trust Ben Affleck huge as a
Yeah.
filmmaker. But once again, I can't use that as a positive argument because that's a blind faith argument. Once again,
But here's another scenario, John. If she is in the film
Right.
and absolutely sucks, there is a very high probability that they would replace her for a Justice League
they
film.
can change her.
They can.
All other things being equal as fans, though, I think. Look, you know me, right? No actor is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
But all other things being equal, I think we all agree. The best case scenario is you get one actor and you stick with them if possible.
Of
Yeah.
course. It's
So
less
I would
confusing.
have liked to have seen them gotten an actress that really had the potential to do really well.
Whoa. Let's be clear.
I-
She has potential. You just don't have a lot of hope.
I haven't seen the potential.
I didn't
I
think she
mean,
was that bad in Fast and
I
Furious.
thought she was pretty darn awful in Fast and the Furious
really
6.
didn't think so.
She's
I
awfully
haven't
pretty.
seen enough of her to be able to make a decision based
Exactly,
on that,
but
but
I
I think
think
it's a
she
bad
wasn't
business
offended by
move
that.
overall to put someone in that role who cannot carry a film on their own.
Okay, because ultimately that's it, right? She can't just be a
that's
good
the hope.
supporting
Yeah, this is not a
character.
one movie gig. If
Yeah.
they want to set
Let's
up
hope not. We
anything,
need
if they
a
want to
standalone
establish
Wonder Woman.
anything,
Exactly,
yeah,
and so we're
exactly.
talking- now-
She can't. I don't see her carrying a whole movie.
Here's the other thing that we're
We
not
haven't
talking
seen her
about.
Screen test. We don't know.
But once again, another blind faith
Yes.
argument, right?
Without faith, we have nothing, John. We have
True. Without
nothing.
there is the faith is the substance of the things unseen. That's my old theology background for you. But here's the one thing that we're not talking about is that it is possible that Gal Gadot could be terrible as Wonder Woman, and it can still work if they have the right script. And because let's look at Gina Carano in Haywire. Gina Carano, who a lot of people wanted for Wonder Woman, and I said no, I didn't want her as Wonder Woman because she's not a strong enough actress yet. But what's
not.
the director for Haywire,
Steven Soderbergh.
Soderbergh. What Soderbergh did was he crafted the movie and her role to hide her weaknesses
True.
and accentuate her strengths. Is Gina Carano a good actress?
No.
She's not. But even though she wasn't a good actress, Soderbergh was able to create the role for her and create the movie in such a way and orchestrate the movie that it hid her lack of acting ability and accentuated on her strengths, her physical presence and all the stuff that she could do action-wise, keep her dialogue to a minimum. When she did have to give dialogue, don't make it dialogue that had to be infused with a lot of emotion. And they did that. There is a possibility here that Gadot is, as I fear, not a good actress and she won't do well, but Snyder could still orchestrate in such a way that it can come across just fine, even without a good actress in the role.
But maybe this will be her breakout role, and people are like, okay, wow, she does have talent.
It's
Actually,
possible.
They knew what they were looking for. Imagine that. Again, I
A
like
blind
to play
faith
both
argument
sides.
again.
I love to play both sides, but when I first got the casting news as well, I was like, wait, what? And I know we're all pro Jamie Alexander. I was after seeing Lady Sif and all her other work, but then we had the panel with her, and I was like, wow, she is just the coolest, most talented chick around. So I was already pro about that, and we believe her as fighting and all of that. So initially I was a little disappointed. I can name 10 other actresses I had in mind first.
Yeah.
But I do have this faith. I do have this hope. I loved Man of Steel, and I do think they know what they're doing.
John, greetings and salutations from Dubai. Love the show. I watch the show regularly like it's my daily fix.
Awesome.
You have been talking about Gal Gadot, saying she isn't the Wonder Woman you like, but she's training now in various martial arts, boxing, and gaining weight for the role. I know she has to prove her acting chops, but she could possibly be a surprise, and let's not forget she served in the military. Also, Jamie Alexander isn't as massive as we see on screen. So the question I ask is, what are the implications if the Man of Steel 2 or Batman vs. Superman isn't very good? Like, what if it sucks? Will the DC universe continue forward and lead to JLA or stop it?
Well, let's start with the Godot thing. I think 2 or 3 hours ago, we touched on this when we had Gray Drake here. Here's the thing with Gal Gadot. Okay, she is training in boxing. First of all, saying somebody from Israel was in the military, that doesn't really mean anything because everybody in Israel has to serve 2 years in the military. That's mandatory. That's mandatory. To say, okay, she's training in boxing and martial arts and all that kind of stuff, doesn't matter. because there were already people out there who were 10 times better than she will ever be. Look, if all we needed somebody that had the physical stature of Wonder Woman and had the fighting skill, we would have hired Gina Carano. Gina Carano would have been the no-brainer choice. If all we were worried about is somebody who can really fight and really look the part physically of an Amazon warrior, then we would have gotten Gina Carano. But that's not really important. The important thing is, can they act? Are they a trained actor? And that's why I always said, going back, that as big of a fan as I am of Gina Carano, I did not want to see her as Wonder Woman because she is not a strong enough actress. She does not have an acting pedigree. She does not come from a background of acting. She hasn't exhibited the talent needed to carry a film. And we talked a little bit about Haywire. That what Steven Soderbergh did that was so brilliant was, okay, we've got this girl leading the film who's not really a good actress. So what did they do? They hid her flaws. They gave her minimal dialogue, and when she did have dialogue, it wasn't emotion-infused dialogue, and they focused more and emphasized her strengths. So the issue about her being physically training is it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You can get anybody to physically look the part. Do I like the fact that they're starting with a girl who's 97 pounds? No, but you can remedy that over the course of a year or two. But like I said, once again, if all we cared about was the fighting and all that kind of stuff, we would have gotten Gina Carano. She would have been perfect. The problem is, she's not an actress. I've said this before, I'll say it again. She's not an actress, and I know some of you guys are getting sick of hearing me say this, but let me recap my biggest problems. With Gal Gadot, and then I'm going to tell you why we still have to have hope, all right? We still have to have hope. The problem with Gal Gadot is she's not an actress, she's an underwear model who was given her first film, which I believe was Date Night, as Mark Wahlberg, the girl who was sleeping with Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, an underwear model.
And an underwear model, right?
He's had to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. So, her one line was, "You make sex with us?" and sounded ridiculous doing it. And then because she was hot eye candy, she was given a role in Fast and Furious 6, in which she was terrible. Now, some people say, John, don't judge her by her acting performance in a movie like Fast and the Furious 6. Okay, but she's a non-actress who has no acting background, no training background. She's been training as an actor for about 7 months, which good for her. Good. It's a good start. And now she's been handed the biggest, most iconic female superhero franchise in the history of comic books. Mark Wahlberg, on the other hand, was an underwear model and a rapper who 3 years before taking his first role decided he wanted to become an actor and started training in Hollywood as an actor. He started going to a lot of the, not the Groundlings, trying to remember the same guy Ashley went to. I'm forgetting, but anyway. Started going there, started getting training as an actor, then started getting certain parts in smaller films. And he started to develop and he started to grow. And as he started to develop and grow, he got bigger and bigger films and got bigger and bigger roles. And then before you know, after about 7 years of doing this, he was a legit movie star. Suddenly he's in The Departed and he's got an Academy Award nomination. That is not the Gal Gadot situation.
It's like 4 years, though. I mean, since she started acting.
Has it been 4 years? And define acting. Because now here's the other thing. Now, my biggest point about this is that every argument for Gal Gadot here is what I call a blind faith argument. Mm-hmm. Some people want to say, well, John, look at Henry Cavill. Nobody knew who Henry Cavill was prior to Superman Returns. Some people want to say Chris Pine. Look at Chris Pine. Nobody knew who he was before Thor. But having heard of him,
Star Trek.
Well, yeah,
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Sorry, thank you. Chris Hemsworth in Star Trek.
Chris Pine was in Princess Diaries 2.
What? So, but the fact that they haven't been heard of is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, Henry Cavill, for almost a decade, had been eyed by Hollywood casting agents. He was people looked at him to be Superman 5 years ago. People looked at him to be the next James Bond. He has been eyed by Hollywood casting agents as a guy with major star potential and major talent for years, and then got his break. Same thing with Chris Hemsworth. Before he got that little crack in Star Trek as Captain Kirk's dad, he had been identified for years as a guy with huge star potential and a lot of talent, and they were looking for the right vehicle for him to possibly have a breakout role. He was great in Star Trek. It was a very tiny role, though, and then they gave him a shot, a recognized talent, gave him a shot in Thor to carry it, and he hit it out of the park. So you're looking at these two guys, Henry Cavill and Chris Hemsworth, are a very, very different situation from a girl like Gal Gadot, she had none of that pedigree. She had none of that background. She had none of that resume. And the fact that they were all unheard of is completely irrelevant. So really just saying, well, let's give it a chance. That's a blind faith argument to say, let's give Zack Snyder the benefit of the doubt. And for setting aside for a second, Zack Snyder has nothing to do with this decision.
Right.
This is a Warner Brothers decision. That as well is a blind faith. Because if you want to use the argument that, hey, I'm sure they saw something in the audition that they liked, let's have faith. Well, in that case, you are never allowed to ever criticize any casting decision ever.
I think the word you're using is wrong. You can't say blind faith, because I could say you have blind non-faith in this. You're like, it's stupid that they cast this person who's a non-actor.
No. I'm basing it on this. Here's the facts. This is a girl who does not come from an acting background.
Right.
She is best known for being an underwear model. The 2 outings she's had and had an opportunity, just the 2, in Fast and the Furious and the 1 little bit part in Date Night, hasn't impressed anybody.
Right.
And now, unlike the Marky Mark in the Funky Bunch situation,
Right.
who started as that and then slowly developed and grew over the course of years and years and years, 5, 6, 7, 8 films under his belt.
You see him saying Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Hearing that makes me smile and laugh because it's such a funny name.
Hey, feel the vibration, my friend.
That's right.
And who over the course of 5, 6, 7, 8 films till then they said, now you have the experience. Now you have developed. Now you have grown. Now we will start giving franchises to you and let you go. Gal Gadot, Fast and the Furious. I will look hot in this bikini. Wonder Woman! Ridiculous. Now, having said all that, you have to give it a chance. It is what it is. They made a mistake. You can't get around this. Them casting Gadot was a mistake. But you can still get the right result.
I can't understand how you could say it's a mistake because, like, you once again weren't there in the casting decision. You're not the casting director.
That's a blind. Then you can never criticize any casting decision.
Sure,
ever.
I'm just saying you particularly are so wound up about this Gal Gadot thing. I particularly am not. I think, hey, whoever the casting decision was, who it led up to being Gal Gadot. I remember us, talking about the 2 other actresses who were up with her for a role in the DC movie. We were like, oh, it's not going to be Wonder Woman. It's probably some smaller role or something. But it actually was Wonder Woman. So if you go back, you can see those other 2 actresses. You have to imagine that they went through at least 15
who also
20.
weren't good actresses.
I'm just saying, yeah.
It was Olga Kurylenko
Right.
and I can't remember the other. And at the time I said, well, none of these 3 are good actresses. So it can't be for Wonder Woman. It's got to be for a smaller role. Turns out they were looking at all non-talented actresses for Wonder Woman, as it turns out.
But it's really hard to tell at this point. Like you're saying, it's blind faith. But I kind of, it's hard to say like, hey, they picked Ben Affleck for Batman, then they picked Gal Gadot for Wonder Woman. Whoever's in charge of the casting, these people all went through the same process. Maybe Ben Affleck not so much, but there's a process that you go through, and you get vetted. You do screen tests, you do all these things. You try on the outfits, you do multiple lines from the movie. Just little tidbits that she said, and you can gather. You're like, oh, she's going to be an Amazonian. They're going to introduce the island of the Amazonians, and she's going to be from it. So they're going for something. So I'm just not going to. I can't get on the same page as you as this kind of thing with like. There's other casting decisions that have upset me in the past, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you know what? If I can only wait. Like you say, wait until you see the movie, but I just can't get that much anger about the casting of it. I
can.
No, I know you can, but I just can't get that worked up about it because it's like, to me, it's like, hey, someone there. I really liked Man of Steel, and there's a lot of people who didn't like Man of Steel. I liked all the casting decisions in Man of Steel, particularly like some of the actresses, like the woman who played Fiora. I thought she was really fun. She was like, she had that Ursa, Phantom Zone flavor from like the early 1981 film, but she also had her own, she was super, a badass fighter, So it was, that movie itself had a lot of, back and forth between all of us when, you can dissect it and you can talk about it, but ultimately I really liked it. I saw it twice in the theater. I can't wait to see it again when I haven't got the DVD yet, but it's a strong film. It stood up. It's better than a lot of the other films, like if I was going to look at all the Superman movies, like, yeah, Superman, the movie established Superman as a superhero character. Superman 2 was the one that like hit it out of the park for all the, 1980s kids and stuff like that who saw it. It's like, that's all you got really at that time. That was all that was around. The other 2 Superman movies, not so good. Superman Returns, not good. Man of Steel, bam, we finally got a superhero movie with Superman in it.
Yeah.
I can't really, I just have to reserve judgment and like, was I expecting Gal Gadot to be cast as Wonder Woman? Absolutely not.
Nobody did.
Nobody did. But was I expecting Ben Affleck to play Batman? No, I was not. That was a shocker. I was like, yeah, didn't he already rock Batman, but in the red suit as Daredevil? And we all saw that. He already did it 10 years ago, and it wasn't that great. It's not a horrible movie if you see the director's cut. I'll argue that, but no one, that just came out of left field. I was like, Ben Affleck, he's rocking it as a director now, making real movies, like realistic movies, not superhero movies, like fantasy, like big blockbusters. But then you think about it, all of it all added up after we all found out he built a Batcave in his own house. The guy's a sweaty nerd. You know what I mean? It's like we don't really know that much about Gal Gadot other than she's Israeli. She was an underwear model. She's been in a couple of movies.
I will say she was not a sweady nerd.
No, I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to say. We know Affleck is a sweaty nerd. Gal Gadot is just a hot chick who is a model. So they had to see something there, and I'm going to leave it up to that. It's like they don't throw. They're like, I just can't see where you're coming from sometimes when you're like they did this like rash decision when it's like they're casting Wonder Woman. You would expect them to like, I don't know who you expected to be cast. Like maybe, I heard, all the stuff like a real actress.
About 15 different names.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying like within what we have now, there has to be a reason. Obviously, we'll find out in a year and a half.
Yeah.
I'm holding out saying, you know what? They cast this person because they saw something inherently in her, even above and beyond the other two actresses who aren't A-list actresses. There was something that they were going for with those last three. If you look at them, there's certain similarities, maybe just visually, but then she was able to hit it out of the park. I'm assuming acting wise.
I'm going to assume there was something they were going for and it wasn't acting ability. But like I said, I think there's a reason to hope here. I think there's a reason to hope.
Now, the other thing too is acting ability. People grow. There's transformations that happen when she shot. But I'm just saying, Fast and the Furious. That's 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago when she shot it. She could have been taking acting lessons every day. People grow.
Right, but once again, that's what I kind of fall under the blind faith. That's let's hope that's what happened. Like, look.
No. I'm not hoping it. I'm just saying
it's possible.
Something had to happen to make them decide to give her that role.
But here's what I come down to. When you look at, let's take Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, right?
Okay.
And we got to say, okay, what are our tangible reasons for believing in that decision? Okay, Henry Cavill is Superman?
Right.
All right. Knocked it out of the park in the Two Doors. People loved him in it. He had been identified with great talent, almost got the new James Bond role, was looked at to be Superman before, and there were about 3 or 4 other franchise films. The casting directors have been looking at this guy already. That's the level of talent he has.
He was, like you're saying, Henry Cavill was already in the top 6 because I saw all the audition tapes for Superman that McGee shot.
Right,
and
he was one of them.
And so was Brandon Roth.
Right.
They picked Brandon Roth, like Singer came on when McGee quit and just basically took those 6 out of those 6 people. He's like, that's the one. He didn't have time to have that giant audition tape that you watch for Superman Returns. That was all phony.
Yeah, but what I'm saying here is, if you're looking at the decision-making process and what do you have to base on? Okay, so Henry Cavill, he's got the Two Doors, hugely sought-after talent, almost got these big franchises before, Sears talent.
Right.
Okay, Ben Affleck. All right, notwithstanding the Geelys and the 10 years ago
Sure.
Daredevil. Last film he was his lead actor in, won Best Picture at the Oscars. Before that, he was in The Town, which got a lot of critical acclaim.
Wrote a little screenplay that he won an Oscar for.
Yeah, and so again, a guy that's at helm. There you got Gal Gadot. What is our tangible, real-life fallback on that?
Hot chick and Fast and the Furious. No, I get you.
And that's my point.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying, is that there is nothing to defend this with other than let's hope they saw something they liked in the audition process.
That's the only defense that you have, though.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the only defense you have. You're like, hey, there's always people getting cast that you've never heard of. Christopher Reeve was cast as Superman. He was like some soap opera actor. It's like, but they made it like we're going for a nobody. They made that a big thing. We got Gene Hackman, we got Marlon Brando, and then Slappo is going to be Superman. You know what I mean? They made it a point to say that they were going for an unknown, not a nobody, just the unknown word.
But here's why you have hope. And here's why there's hope. All right, and this is something I gotta keep reminding myself of, and everybody. There are some people who go way more extreme than me and say, "That's it. Let's not watch Batman versus Superman." No. There is reason for hope, and here's why. Here's the sports analogy I gave earlier. All right, take basketball for example. Say the Miami Heat. You're the coach of the Miami Heat. All right, you got LeBron James on your team, best basketball player in the world. So
do we need anybody else? I got LeBron
No,
James.
you don't.
Yeah, everybody else get on the bench.
No, you don't need anyone else.
So here's the thing. You're down by 2 points. You got 2 seconds left in the game. You need a 3-pointer to win the game. And you got your team on the side, and you drop a play, say, who do we want to take our shot? Eddie, the worst player on the team.
That's harsh.
Wait a minute. Let's finish.
Let's
finish. We're going to have Eddie take the shot because they'll be expecting LeBron to take the shot. So let's get Eddie. Now, is that the wrong decision? Yes, it's the wrong decision. But he's still going to throw that ball up. Mm-hmm. And there's still a chance that ball is going to go in that net. There is still a chance that it will work. It doesn't change the fact that it's the wrong decision. He still should have given the ball to LeBron. Right. But Eddie's going to throw that ball up. And that ball still may end up going in the net. I contend this is the wrong choice. The Gal Gadot is definitively, in my opinion, the wrong choice. But that being said, just because it's the wrong choice, that doesn't mean the chance does not exist that it may still work. It may still work. This can work. And we talked about Gina Carano and Haywire, right? And we talked about how Steven Spielberg wrote things around Soderbergh, to hide her weaknesses and to accentuate the strengths. There's nothing that says here that we may get directors, Zack Snyder probably on a small level, because I don't expect Wonder Woman to play a huge role in this film, probably for future films.
Yeah.
Or you can get directors to do what they did with Gina Carano. Hide her weaknesses, accentuate her strengths, and look, and if you have a bad performance but great dialogue and great story and great things given to her, a bad performance won't necessarily kill the film. As a matter of fact, the bad performance may not even look like a bad performance. Look, is it the wrong decision? I'm with those of you who think it is the wrong decision. I'm with you. But I am not with you for those who say, that's it, there's no hope for this film, because there absolutely is. Because it's not just Gal Gadot. It's the director. It's the writers. Everybody's going to be working with her to get her prepared to play this role. Would I put money on her doing a good job? No. But I'm also not going to put money on it that it's not going to work, because I think there's enough there, you got enough talented people around her, that it is possible this can work. And as a fan of the DC Cinematic Universe, who wants nothing more than to see a good Justice League film, I've got to hold on to that hope. I'm not going to be blind to the obvious mistakes that are being made here. But we still hold on to hope, because other movies have made mistakes and survived them.
Right. Or become giant hits. I mean, for every movie that has a character that hit it out of the park, then you have these movies like Flash Gordon from the 80s. Whatever happened to Sam Jones?
Yeah.
He ended up playing the Spirit in a TV show, and then he's in Ted. Yeah. That's it. That's basically all you got from that guy. Was he a great Flash Gordon? I thought he was fantastic. Did the movie make all the money that it was supposed to make or whatever, or was it perceived the right way? I think the sports analogy that you use is a little weighted on one side. I mean, that's LeBron James or some flappy nobody to do the 3-pointer.
An experienced Academy-nominated actress or of an underwear model. I think it's an apt comparison. I really do.
I know, but it's at the same time though, it's there's a lot of transformation time that happens between roles. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
is
hopefully, because she's only going to be asked to do probably a cameo in Man of Steel. And let's say they do JLA before they do Wonder Woman. And that will probably be a bigger role than Man of Steel, but still not a huge role. Maybe by that time that Wonder Woman comes out way, way down the line, she has improved.
Fingers crossed. Now, Amy Rose pointed out, and when we talked about this earlier, Amy Rose pointed out, she said, look, if they put her in Man of Steel 2 and she really blows as Wonder Woman, they can always change her. And I said, look, yeah, they did that with Batman, right? They got rid of Katie Holmes. They brought in
they took out Terrence Howard. They got the
exactly.
Yeah,
and
people are replaceable.
I totally believe you can change any actor. I don't believe any actor is untouchable. But that being said, I think we would all agree that all things being equal, we would prefer to get our first actor be the last actor.
Yes.
We would prefer to have one actor in there in continuity. So yeah, they can dump her, but I don't want them to. I want to see some continuity. And if you have to, do it. But I would much rather see them start with somebody and then follow through with that person, even if it's Gal Gadot. I would like to see it, unless she's just that terrible in it, which I think there's enough talented people around her to prevent that from
I swear to
happening.
God, I mean, I think everybody's going to be eating crow when this movie comes out because she can't be that terrible. They cast her as Wonder Woman. That's the proof for me. Like, I know you keep saying she's an underwear model and all this other stuff, but it's like they cast her as Wonder Woman. That should throw all that stuff out the door. That to me is like,
not if I believe them casting her as Wonder Woman was a mistake.
That's where we differ. But we'll know in the next year and a half.
When will ninja movies make a comeback? Thanks, guys.
There was such a glorious era of ninja movies. We had Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja. Shokasagi ruled the screen as the ultimate ninja warrior. Then he even had that one that Shokasagi did with a very young Jean-Claude Van Damme, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was like a Russian, martial arts secret agent guy, and Shokasagi was an American one, and blah. Then you had like American Ninja. They had Gymkata. Do you remember Gymkata?
No.
It was the stupidest premise in the world. The U.S. government went and got this Olympic gymnast and then trained him to merge his gymnastic skills with ninjutsu, and they called it Gymkata. And it was so deliciously awful. I want the ninja film back. I want them back. I could watch ninja films all day long. So I don't see a resurgence anytime soon, but damn, I hope it comes, because I would be just in pig heaven.
I do, however, have to take issue, my friend Tyler, my brother in arms, about the notion that Ahsoka Tano should be used in the film. And here's why. I'm going to read something to you that I actually wrote a number of years ago. As you know, I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. In my earliest childhood memory, my mom taking me as a child to go see Star Wars. My first pet's name was a cat named Luke Skywalker. Star Wars is my life. It really is. But when I went to go see that Clone Wars movie that came out a couple years ago, I was so enthusiastic. I was so excited to see new Star Wars, even though it was just an animated thing. It broke my heart. It disgusted me, as a matter of fact. So much so that I wrote that it killed my passion for Star Wars.
No.
And here is a little paragraph I wrote about our mutual friend, Ahsoka Tano. And here's what I wrote. Ahsoka Tano, the annoying little orange Jedi Padawan who replaces Jar Jar Binks' P-Usa with calling Anakin Skywalker her Jedi Master Sky Guy and R2-D2 R2-y. She is the true heir to the mantle of franchise killer, once held by Jar Jar Binks. Yes, Ahsoka is the new Jar Jar, only worse, because there is no tiny gray area with her. She is 100% and unapologetically a WB Kids show character aimed directly at children. It was the final nail in the coffin, the nuking of the fridge, and the jumping of the shark all rolled into one and confirmed the already existing truth. Star Wars was dead, and actually had been for years already, and now there was really nothing left but to acknowledge that she had killed it, and I had to let the grieving process begin and accept it. So no, my friend, my brother in arms, I do not agree that Ahsoka Tano should be in the new movies. I'm going to tell you this right now. As passionate as I am about Star Wars, I will not go to see Star Wars Episode 7 if they put that character in. Wow. I'm saying it right now. You can hold me accountable for it in 2015. I will not go to see this movie if she's in it. That's how strongly I feel about it. The sacred relationship between Master and Padawan. Like you watch in any Star Wars incarnation, you refer to them as Master. That's what you call them. You are reverent to your master. And there's this thing. And then she pops on screen and she starts referring to her master as Sky Guy. I wanted to kill people. I wanted to grab complete strangers around me and choke the life out of them. I was so angry because they would become the representation of everything that was wrong with this movie.
Isn't that exciting? This brand new slate that we have no idea where they're going to go with this galaxy. It's so exciting.
I find it irritating.
No,
all right,
John, no.
First, you guys got to bring up this graphic here when you get a chance to put this graphic up. That kind of epitomizes my whole feeling of the prequels. Is pretty much epitomized right there. I am. Look, Star Wars is the blood that runs through my veins. Anybody who knows me knows this is the truth. I live, breathe, die everything Star Wars. I even play the Star Wars desktop role-playing game, the West End Games version, by the way, not the West Coast Games version. But I detest the prequels. For me, it was like a really bad abusive relationship. It's like I would go out on a date with this girl who would just be terrible to me and call me names and say I smelled funny. And then it's like, then I find out she wants to go out with me again for a second date. And I'm like, that was horrible, but damn, she's hot. So, okay, I'll go again. Star Wars is hot, man. So it's like, okay, I'll go again. And I go, and this time she slaps me in public and spits on my shoes and everything. And I'm like, oh, she's beat me down again. And then you think I'd learn my lesson, but no, a third time she calls me later and says, let's go out on a third date. And it's like, but I've been so abused in this relationship. But she's so hot. It's Star Wars, so I go again. And this time she just outright, takes a dump on my feet. And so at some point, and I'll never learn my lesson because Star Wars is just the sexiest thing in the world for me. So I will keep going back. And I believe in J.J. Abrams and the new incarnation. I believe they will do a great job with it. I can't wait for episode 7. I bleed Star Wars, all right? Batman vs. Superman could not take a hit. They need this to be huge. They need it to be big because they're trying to reestablish this whole cinematic universe. Is it cowardly? I'm having a lot of people tweeting me and asking me, was it cowardly of DC to move off the date? No, it wasn't. Because DC announcing dates doesn't mean much to me. Just last year hey everybody, we're bringing you Batman vs. Superman in the summer of 2015. Yay! And then a couple of months after that did we say summer of 2015? We meant May 6th, 2016. Yay! And now yesterday, did we say May 6th? We really meant March 2016. Yay! DC and Warner Bros. Giving us dates means nothing.
John, is it a good move by Lionsgate to make a new Power Rangers movie?
Good God, no. No. It has been officially confirmed and announced. We have our Alfred for the upcoming Man of Steel 2, and we have our Lex Luthor. Alfred is going to be played by Jeremy Irons. Lex Luthor is going to be played by Jesse Eisenberg. With Jesse Eisenberg, I'm with you. I want Lex Luthor to have his hair in this movie. I really do. I think Jesse Eisenberg is a really overrated actor.
That is crazy.
I think he's an overrated. He is basically a slightly better version of Michael Cera. I thought he was really overrated in The Social Network, but as Chrisley and I were talking about, I don't blame him for that. I thought the character was written as a very one-note character, and I don't know that it could have been played much better by anybody else either. So I don't blame him for that. But basically he's always just this. This is Jesse Eisenberg. This is how he talks. This is how every one of his characters will always talk from now until the end of time. That's it. That's what he is. However, having said that, I don't think we've seen him in enough films to really know how good he can be. So while I'm thinking he's a little overrated, I'm not one of these guys who thinks, I don't think Jesse Eisenberg can act, because I do. I just want to see a little bit more from him, and maybe this will give us a chance to do that. I didn't hate that first Hulk film as much as a lot of people do, but the reasons it failed were a couple. Number one, there wasn't really a strong story. There wasn't really a strong story there. It was a father and son kind of movie. Secondly, the villain was pretty much non-existent, and he just kind of popped up out of nowhere. There's no villain, there's no villain, there's no villain. Now you have Phantom Nick Nolte, who will suck him down into a vast whirlpool of water. What? And then, of course, there was the infamous Hulk dogs scene, where the big fight in the movie is the Hulk fighting a hulked-out poodle. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. These 3 dogs. That's the big fight in the scene. I was the most vocal out of anybody when they announced the cast initially that I did not want the Fantastic Four babies. I wanted the older, more mature, adult Fantastic Four. That being said, nothing has come out of this film that is not positive. Okay, are they too young of a cast, in my opinion? Is it a different Fantastic Four they're doing than I wanted? Yes, but okay, deal with it, put that aside for a second. These are 4 tremendously talented actors of their generation that they've put in this thing. The directors right now are fighting with each other to work with Miles Teller. Michael B. Jordan, well documented. I mean, you just run down the list of the cast they're putting in this thing, it's incredible. Then we come out of X-Men Days of Future Past, we're all completely blown away by this film, and then you realize, oh yeah, the guy who just wrote this incredible script, he's writing Fantastic Four. Josh Trank did Chronicle, they bring him in, good touch, and now we're realizing he's doing such a good job there, and word is so good on what he's doing and how he handles himself, that Lucasfilm just hired him to shepherd a Star Wars movie. There is nothing, other than the Fantastic Four babies problem that I had at first, that is not encouraging. And then you're going to say, yeah, but Fox screws everything up. X-Men Days of Future Past. So, right now, there's really not a lot of reason to not at least be optimistic. Could this movie completely crap the bed? Yes, it can, no doubt. But I'm telling you, I'm seeing more positive signs than negative. So while I do think if they drop the ball again, there's a good chance they could just let it go. I'm starting to think that ain't going to happen.
I think she's good. Of the names they were looking at,
I
think
will
she's
go so
good.
far as to say it is the worst casting in Hollywood history.
Do you think it's the worst casting in Hollywood
Worst
history?
casting in
That
Hollywood.
bad?
That bad.
That's shocking.
It is.
John,
And I'm
shocking.
offended. I'm offended by
It's
the
not
casting.
that bad.
It is the single most iconic female superhero in the history of media
agreed.
ever. And you get a chick in what little tiny. You got this woman who has only had the tiniest of roles, which doesn't matter that she's had tiny roles, right?
Right.
But she's been terrible in the tiny roles that she's had.
Terrible? I liked her in the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh my gosh.
I did.
They went and got a Broadway actor to be Cyborg. They went and got a guy who's been training since he was 6 to be an actor. They went and got a girl who just until recently. I moved to LA and she was still just a model. Not that models can't become great actresses, they can. But what I'm saying is she does not have the chops to be handed the most iconic female superhero character. But I will say this though, as negative as I feel about it, all right? And this is what I try to tell film fans all the time. No matter what you think a movie looks like, no matter what you think about an actor in a certain role, whatever, it's cool to have those opinions. But when you go to the movie, and this is what people like me have to do, when you go to the movie, take all of that, leave it at the door, go in and give the movie its fair shake, because we've all been surprised, right? We've seen bad decisions turn into home runs. And all we can do now as fans of comic book movies is, Quicksilver is a great example of that. Let's just cross our fingers now, this is all I can do, and really, truly hope she knocks it out of the park. Because I want to see a great Wonder Woman. If she can deliver it, awesome. I just don't think it's going to happen. But
And that's how I feel about Miles Teller.
There we go.
Since Disney owns both Marvel and Star Wars,
No, I'm going to stop you right there. No.
Come
No,
on.
it's not going to, and nobody worth their lick who is even a minor fan of the Marvel Universe or the Star Wars Universe would ever want them to make that kind of an abomination. That would be stupid beyond all belief. No.
Patton Oswalt will disagree with you.
Patton Oswalt, I'll sit down and watch Patton Oswalt talk about the crossover all day. But to actually make it, that would be the stupidest thing ever. But let's be honest here for a second, okay? Everybody knows what I think of the Star Wars prequels. Like, Star Wars is my life, the prequels are a joke. But all of our families have that one 43-year-old unemployable uncle who gets high off of sniffing bathroom cleaners and still lives in your grandparents' basement. He's a complete humiliation and embarrassment to the family. But he's still family. As much as I hate it, the Star Wars prequels are still Star Wars. To me, Indiana Jones lives in the World War II era. To me, Indiana Jones is fighting the Nazis. To me, that's Indiana Jones. And for me, in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it always felt out of place, him going toe-to-toe with the Ruskies, you know, the whole Cold War thing. I want the Nazi era. I want the Nazis.
Remember, the first three went backwards in time.
Now someone's going to quote me. John Campea said he wants Nazis.
I know.
Completely out of context.
Can't believe Campea's into Nazis. What? I didn't say that.
Indiana Jones fights Nazis. And Indiana Jones, the real spirit of the Indiana Jones stories take place in the Nazi era, not in the early 1970s, mid-1970s. And that's just the way it is to me. It's different for everybody, and that's totally cool. It's just the way it is for me.
Here you go, spreading the John loves Nazis rumor.
The John loves Nazis.
Here we go.
John Campea of AMC Movie Talk
Love
said,
Nazis.
love the Nazis, of an army of swinging monkeys chasing Shia LaBeouf. Can that translate from the big screen to animation? And I don't know that you can capture that perfection. I don't want Indiana Jones in the late 70s. Not age-wise, in the 1970s. I don't want Indiana Jones in the 60s or 70s. I want Indiana Jones where he's supposed to be.